You see, because he was man, not only was he able to enter our world and communicate to us in ways we could understand, he could also live and die as our representative. He could die under the curse of sin as our substitute and set us free from it. He lived the life we were supposed to live and then died the death we were condemned to die. Because he's man, he could die in our place. But because God, he could overcome sin and death and restore life to us. What I want to zero in on for the last few moments in this session is the idea that because he's man, he understands us. He gets us. Because he's man, he is shared in your pain. He's shared in your weaknesses and your limitations. He's not a God who's far off, aloof from you. He took on your flesh and entered into your experiences. That means that any emotion you feel, he's felt it. He knows what it's like to be lonely or sad or overlooked or betrayed or confused. He can do that because he's man. But because he's God, he can overcome those weaknesses. He can redeem you from them, and he can lead you out of them. Because he's man, he gets us. Because he's God, he can save us. One of the most amazing things that Jesus did during his time on earth was to take the loftiest name of God in the Old Testament, I am, or Yahweh in Hebrew, or Jehovah, the Latin translation. He took that name and he claimed it for himself. But then, this is a key, he attached that name to our greatest places of brokenness and need. Jesus does this 7 times in the Gospel of John. For example, to those who hunger, Jesus said in John 6, I am the bread of life. To those in darkness, Jesus declares, I am the light. To those who feel like they're in need of protection or shelter or refuge, Jesus says, I'm the door. To those who feel lost and abandoned, Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. To those who feel confused, he says, I am the way. To those who fear death, he says, I am the life. And what that means is that he can meet you at your place of need. Everything that you're missing, everything that you need, everything you've ever felt like you've lacked, everything you've always looked for is in him, the great I am. Most of us realize that there's something broken about us, something incomplete, something we're missing. Jesus showed us that God was that missing piece. The Father was that missing piece. To quote the 17th century philosopher Blaise Pascal, every human heart has a gigantic hole in it. We spend all of our lives trying to figure out what goes into that hole. When we're young, we try friends and success, or maybe sex and romance and drugs. When we're older, we might turn to family and money and legacy, but none of it ever quite works because that hole, he says, that hole is in the shape of God. What we're missing from our lives, Jesus explained, is the love of God, and only he, as the God-man, can restore it to us. Over the next several sessions, we're going to explore how he did that and how he can absolutely transform your life. I look forward to exploring this with you.